She was only 8 months old when she began playing Baby Grace on Little House on the Prairie. And now she's written a new book based on the show's inspirational storylines. Please welcome to our home, Wendi Lou Lee. Welcome, Wendi.
Hey, Wendi.
We're so excited to have you here. And what a beloved series. People love this show, and it was on for 9 seasons. And it really, I feel like, is the thread of so many of our childhoods.
Yeah.
As it obviously was for real for you.
yours.
You were only 4 years old when the series came to an end. And, you know, a lot of the characters on the show have written memoirs. But how could you possibly remember all the stuff that happened when you were just 4?
Well, I explain it the way that there's about 3 different elements of my memories. One is that we were actually there on the show. The second is we watched the show our whole lives.
Right.
And then my mom just telling us story after story after story. And that's what makes up my memories.
Right.
I'm not sure which one's which at times.
And it wasn't just you, it was also your twin sister.
Yes.
Which they often do on series when they have babies, they get twins, right?
Yes.
In case one of them's acting up, they just go swap out the twins. You guys are right there, man. It's pretty amazing that you do have any memories from this. So good for you. And in many ways, this book is more than just a memoir; it's a devotional. It's what you call it, right? So explain what that means, and also why Little House on the Prairie was such an inspiration for this.
Well, my book is like a collection of stories. It's very much like a memoir, but it is told with the point of bringing us closer to God and seeing the tragedies of our life. And Laura Ingalls Wilder and her family went through so much on the prairie.
Oh, goodness.
Fires and losing crops and Mary going blind and baby Charles dying. There are so many things that went wrong, and that is just like our lives. And so this book is about the ups and downs of life and how God walks with us through every joy and every sorrow. That's right.
And how we can reframe many of these challenges in our life too, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of that too.
You decide whether it's a good thing and you can take it and do good, or whether it defines you and sort of destroys you. It's up to you. It's
Exactly.
true. So you never really were a writer before. I mean, you didn't really write too much until a personal medical crisis occurred, and then you began writing a blog. Tell us what happened.
Well, in November of 2015, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and I didn't know how to keep my family and my friends up to date, and so I started a blog. And I told myself at the very beginning, if I was going to do this, that I was going to tell it all and be very vulnerable. And so I really did. I was writing in the hospital. I was writing the hour before I went into surgery, and my husband had to basically pry my laptop away from me in the hospital and tell me that I had to sleep. And so I just told everybody everything. I unveiled my scar of staples in my head to everyone right when I saw it for the first time. So that's when I started writing, and about 6 months after my surgery, I said, I'm not going to be a blogger, and so I stopped writing, and I felt like literally the life was draining out of me. And so I stopped and said, I think God wants me to write a book. And so I thought I was going to write a memoir, and it became a devotional, and I'm so grateful that it did, because it really is my heart, is just bringing people sort of to experiencing the God of love. So,
Right.
Beautiful.
You have beautiful stories in the book. And there's another really wonderful story about your late stepfather, who you say reminded you a lot of Michael Landon, your father on the show, in that he had a BMW story. Tell us about this. I love this. It's not the BMW you might think. It's even better.
okay, so my mom married my stepdad. We were very small, 5 years old. My older sister was 6 years old. And so when he married my mom, he married 3 little girls also. And when we moved in, there were all kinds of man toys in that house, because he had been a bachelor for like 15 years. And there was a boat, a catamaran, a little sports car that we used to play in, actually. And just all these things kind of cluttering up the backyard. And one by one, all the things kind of disappeared. And years later, my older sister, Michelle, she said, was that hard for you to get rid of all of the things that you love? Like, here you marry my mom, these kids, and like, all of a sudden your life's not your own anymore. And so she asked him that, and he said, well, I just traded them all for a BMW. And we were kind of looking at him like, are you kidding me? What are you talking about? Because he drove a van. And like an old beater van, seriously. And he said, well, I traded him for a Brenda, Michelle, Wendi. My BMW.
That's a sweet story.
Yeah.
I love that story.
What a wonderful
BMW,
man.
the 3 girls. Good for
That's
you.
the sweetest thing I've
Yeah.
ever heard.
And at his memorial service, we all fought over who got to tell that story. And my older sister Michelle won out, and she got to tell that story to everyone who came. But yeah.
Well, she was the oldest, and now you get to tell tons of stories from
I
across the
know.
for you as well. Thank you so much for being here. You're really wonderful, Wendi. A Prairie Devotional is available now wherever books are sold.
And coming up next.